Broadcasting from the Any Hour Services podcast studios, I'm your host, Mike Wilson, and on this episode of In the House, we're going to be talking about Christmas lights. Let's go.
Got the button.
That's always the sound that was playing in my head when you guys would see me dancing and stuff. Now you know. Now you know.
Where'd you find that?
You know what? I have the greatest staff in the world because I just said one day, like, you know what we need? We need a button where I can just push it and we don't have to sit here in silence after I do my little let's go thing. And one day, button shows up.
So Amazon.
Yeah, I think it was Amazon.
I figured.
You said that last time we were on.
$11.99. Yeah, maybe it was with you guys where I was like, give me a button.
Yep.
Anyway, let's see. In the House is a podcast about the major systems in the house. Electrical, plumbing, heating, and air conditioning. Each week I'm joined by a panel of experts. We pick a topic and we discuss it in depth. It's meant to be informative and hopefully bring you some value. I've got Gavin and Shane with me today. They're managers over the electrical department at Any Hour Services. And like I mentioned before, we're going to be talking about Christmas lights because this is the time of year when people start contemplating putting Christmas lights up. Now, we're going to be talking about, we're going to try and give you some things that you can think about safety-wise and from an electrical standpoint if you're trying to do the Christmas lights yourself. But when I think about Christmas lights, I have these memories of like untangling a 25-foot, oh, I better silence my phone. How come that's not on the list? Is it on the list? Silence phones, number 3. Anyway, untangling really long cords and then like plugging them in to find out that they don't work. And then you have to like go and like search and try and find a bulb that's not working or something like that. I don't know. Did you guys, growing up, were you big on Christmas lights? Put them on the outside of the house or no?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, my dad was very big, and that's why he had sons, was to do the Christmas lights for him.
He had sons to do the Christmas lights.
That's exactly what he says every single time.
What other times of the year would you be doing something and he'd make you do it that he would use that same line?
Probably mowing the lawn.
I was going to say, summer comes like, I had sons so that I didn't have to mow the yard the rest of my life. Yeah, I remember first time I ever mowed the yard by myself with a push mower. I was so excited. I was anxious to do it. Little did I know that like, oh, you can mow the yard now? Cool. You're doing it forever.
For sure.
So I was trying to like gas my kids up as early as I could. 4 years old. Oh, you can walk now? You want to try pushing the lawnmower? You want to try? They didn't. But now they do. And they wish they had never gotten started. It always starts with that was so fun, Dad. I want to do that more often. Got you.
There you go.
Anyway, Shane, Christmas lights growing up. Did you guys do that?
We did, yeah. We had inside and outside. I remember the old ones were big green cords, and our lights were always colored.
Colored lights.
So colored lights. You don't see many of those anymore where they're multicolor.
They don't do multicolor anymore?
They were cool. But you had to go out there and switch out all the light bulbs, and it was a big pain. That's why I don't do them now.
You don't do them now. Well, that's good to know. Do lights... do you do lights on the house now? You say you don't do them on the house now? Like, do you have somebody else do it?
The last couple of years I haven't. Roofs, I remember being younger, most homes were smaller. Here in Utah, I don't know why we build bigger homes and taller homes, but back when I was younger, most homes were smaller, most roof lines were lower. But my house now is very tall. I can get a 24-foot extension ladder, and I still can't reach the top in some spots. So
holy cow.
It's actually dangerous in some spots, so I've kind of talked myself out of it.
So you don't do them at all? You don't even have somebody else come and do it? Or you pay somebody else to be dangerous? We have
lights in trees and lower spots, but the last couple of years...
But do you do those?
Oh, yeah.
You put them up?
Yeah, okay. I'm way too cheap to pay somebody.
Okay.
So... No, they're very pretty, and I've actually looked at lately into getting, they're making more Christmas lights that are permanent. So that's very appealing to me to get
that's right. You were telling me
permanent
about
Christmas
that.
Lights where you push a button on your phone and any color you want.
So were you telling me that some neighbors of yours have done that?
2 or 3 have done it now, and my kids think they're really cool, and I think they're cool.
Permanent Christmas lights for somebody that's like so cheap that they won't like pay somebody to put Christmas lights up. That sounds like an expensive option.
Hey, but the cool thing about the newer ones is they're not just Christmas lights. Halloween, everybody's got orange up there. Valentine's, our house is pink, and there's hundreds of different colors you can put up. So that's a new up and coming way to put up Christmas lights, I think.
All right. Well, Gavin, how about you? You putting Christmas lights up on your houses these days?
No.
Had enough of it as a kid?
Yeah, I tried doing it, and I even, when I moved into this home, there was a box full of Christmas lights, and I still haven't used them.
That like somebody else left?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I haven't used them.
Haven't used them.
So
Cheap and lazy.
yeah, yep.
Well-
I've been looking at those, the permanent lights too.
Yeah,
So,
really?
Yeah.
That sounds well. Once y'all look
Yeah.
into them, y'all can come back and tell me
Put
about
'em
them
on
on the
your
show.
house.
We'll
Yeah.
take a look at it. I don't know that I would like. I don't even put Christmas lights up. We grew up out in the country, and so like we would put Christmas lights on the Christmas tree, but like we wouldn't put them up out on the house. Like there was no one to see it, and we must not have cared that much to like put them up. But
What about your wife?
it's interesting because I actually love Christmas time. I love the Christmas music and stuff like that. And she does not love the commercialization of Christmas. And so, I try every year. I try and get her to put the tree up earlier and earlier, and she's like, "No, I'm not going to do it." I'm like, "Well, I'm not either." So I mean, it was just a suggestion. I'd like to come home and see, the Christmas tree up, but I don't care enough to do it myself. But anyway, but no, she's not a big. I've never gotten grief about it, and so we raised our kids to hate Christmas, and so they don't ask for Christmas lights. I'm just kidding. They don't hate Christmas.
So at our house, we make up on the inside for what we don't do on the outside. We
Okay.
actually have 3 Christmas trees every year.
Really?
Wow.
So, and they're fully decked out. So we use enough lights on those to decorate.
Do you
most
get real
of the-
trees, fake trees?
So we get 2 real trees for upstairs. They're about 14 to 16 feet tall, and then downstairs is a fake tree. So, yep, every year.
So when you say, I don't know why people in Utah build these big houses, you are
I don't know.
contributing
I
to
probably
the,
contribute.
like, well, we have 14-foot trees. So on the second level of the house, upstairs, we need to have really high ceilings so we can put them big old trees in. I see where you're coming from.
I have 8 kids. You've got to have a bigger house, right?
You pile the kids on top of each other since you got like
That's
such
right.
high ceilings?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So besides the need to like be careful from a physical standpoint, because you can injure yourself when you're putting lights up. You mentioned them, being dangerous if the roof lines are too high. Let's talk about from an electrical side. Just electricity is dangerous. When it mixes with water, it's dangerous. Outside, there's a chance of water. So let's talk about some basics. Safety. When you're doing Christmas lights yourself, what are the safety things that you need to think about?
First thing I would say is don't put the plug in the gutter, so where the water's going to be.
Do you see that a lot?
I've seen it. I've had to break some out of ice. A solid sheet
That
of
makes
ice.
sense because you're going along the gutter, like, oh, this big heavy thing. You don't want to have it hanging down or like looking. Let's just put it in the gutter. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Making sure that the outlets that you're plugging it into is GFI protected.
Okay, is there? Exterior outlets should be GFI protected, right?
Yeah.
They make actually a GFI tester. Or if you're plugging it into an outlet that's got the little test and reset button, then it's a GFI outlet, then that's pretty safe there. But there's breakers that will GFI protect things, or you might have multiple outlets tied off of one GFI. They make a little GFI outlet tester where you can just plug it in and there's a button and you can see if it cuts the power off to it. Then it's GFI protected. Just make sure you know where the GFI
Or you won't get it back on.
You might be calling somebody to come and troubleshoot that. Okay, so GFI protection. And for those that don't know what GFI protection is, that's ground fault circuit interrupter. And it's just it's a safety device that whenever it detects the electricity not going where it should, it assumes that it's going through you and it'll cut the power off. And they do that in wet locations because water conducts electricity really well. And when you are wet, you become a good conductor of electricity. And so you want to make sure that you're being safe that way. What else?
I'd say one thing to look for safety-wise on Christmas lights is just the condition of your Christmas lights.
Okay.
Some people put them up year after year after year. If you leave them up too long, the sun is actually very damaging on the cords. So inspect your lights themselves. If you can bend them and they're brittle, they start cracking.
The wires.
It's time to buy new lights. You can also get bulbs that'll break, but there's a filament in there that can actually shock you if you're touching these spots. So before you put your lights up, take a close look at them and make sure they're in good shape. If they're not, it's not worth putting them on your house.
So if they're brittle, and also if you happen to notice, exposed wires, then, get those gone and replace them. Anything else? What else should we be thinking about safety-wise?
Just making sure that your Christmas lights are plugged into an outlet that has enough power going to it.
Okay, tell me more about that.
You can overload circuits in homes. The new LED Christmas lights take a lot less power than the older ones, but a lot of people still use the older, they're called incandescent bulbs. If you fill an incandescent bulb, it creates heat. So they actually take more power. But sometimes in older homes or homes that aren't wired correctly, you can have a lot more stuff than just your Christmas lights running on a circuit.
Is there a rule of thumb or a way to like check and see if it's overloaded, or like, do you get what I'm saying? You're saying like make sure it's not pulling too much power, but how do you know?
So for the most part, your breakers should trip. If you're pulling too much power, a home with a good breaker system, it'll just turn off automatically. Just look though. I mean, if you've got extension cords and 50 sets of lights, you probably have too many. Also, plugging Christmas lights one into another, extension cords are a big problem with Christmas trees. They get a small extension cord. So when I say small, I mean the wire inside of the extension cord is too small to carry all the power. So
like those interior extension cords that are like
the little
really thin.
white ones, or the little, sometimes they're green or black. But you can plug too much into those, and they actually, I think, probably more fires are caused on Christmas tree installation from small extension cords with too much stuff plugged into them.
Yeah, because you think about it, I mean, the way that the science works is that your breaker is not actually there to protect you from, shock. It's actually there to protect the wire from overheating or pulling too much electricity. And so you may be pulling, those small extension cords might be, a 16 gauge wire, and you're plugging it into a 20 amp circuit on a 12 gauge wire. And so you're not going to trip the breaker because you're not pulling too much power, but you are pulling too much power for that 16 gauge wire to be able to handle. And that electricity is going to flow until it burns up the material. And so it gets hotter and hotter. And so that, if you have a bunch of lights plugged into those interior extension cords, go and touch it every once in a while. If it's warm, you're going to want to like break that up onto multiple extension cords, because if it's not tripping the breaker, then you're probably okay. You're not pulling too much power there, but you can overload the extension cord. So more than likely you're plugging into a double outlet. Just get another extension cord and break those lights up in half, and so that you're not overheating those things.
Correct. And when Mike's talking about extension cords, he's saying 16 gauge and 12 gauge. For electricity, the smaller your wire gauge, so a number 12 gauge wire is going to be bigger than a 16. So as those numbers go up,
it's backwards, yeah.
It's a smaller size. So as you're buying extension cords, the 12 gauge extension cord is going to cost a lot more. You've got more copper. It's a bigger one than the 16, or I've even seen 18 gauge. Some of those little ones are 18 gauge. So they're not meant to carry as much power as that circuit will pull. So be careful as you're buying extension cords to make sure you're buying the proper one.
Cool. Any other like Christmas light safety things they need to think about? Actually, before we go to another one, you guys think about that, but I just wanted to bring up another thing. You mentioned, if your breaker panels, they're designed, if you're pulling too much electricity, that the breaker should trip. We haven't done necessarily an episode on, panels that have become obsolete because they have shown that they don't trip the breaker. But if your home is over 30 years old or 40 years old, and you have like an old Zinsco panel or Federal Pacific, like look up those brands, like look up the brand of your electrical panel online and see if there's any safety issues there, because they're notorious for not tripping when they should. And so anyway, we'll do an episode on panels one day. Anyways,
pulling too much power when breakers won't trip is a dangerous thing. Also, if you've got little fuses in your house, that's another way. I mean, a lot of times the fuse will be too big. So just
over the years, as we've done more with the electricity, like one of those old timers will come in and be like, "Oh, just put a bigger fuse in it."
Yep, that'll run just fine.
Those are the same electricians that would like stick the wires to their tongue to tell. That was their tester.
240, 120.
Usually two fingers. That's how they tested everything.
Okay. Any other? Sorry, I interrupted you guys. Any other safety things you guys can think of? Are those the main ones?
Basically power and then just installation, but we're talking about mainly about the power side today.
Okay, so let's talk about, you mentioned, incandescent versus LED, and you talked about those fancy year-round, permanent installations. Let's talk about light technology and what are some of the things that exist out there for people as they're putting these things up.
Well, I think the biggest thing is LEDs. Like most of them have gone to LED. And the first time I put LEDs up, before you could hook like two strands of the incandescents together. LEDs, it was like, holy cow, I can hook a ton of these up, because they specifically say you can hook this many up in one series because they don't pull as much power.
Because they pull way less.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So. What about like controlling the lights? Like, are there different timers and things that people like? Do they need to be aware of any of those things when they're plugging them in outside?
So Christmas lights are pretty cool, the way you can control lighting. And that's not just Christmas lights, but any light in your house. There's anything from a photo cell as a little device that will turn it on whenever it's dark outside. So if you put it on a photo cell, they're going to go on as soon as it gets dark, and when it gets light in the morning, they'll go off. Some people like them on all night. There's timers, there's smart timers, so you can program it to come on when it gets dark and turn off 2 hours later. There's a lot of smart switches now, so you get on your little iPhone or whatever kind of phone you have, and you push a couple buttons and they come on. So many different ways to control Christmas lights from in your home, or you can be across the world and turn your lights on and off nowadays.
I was actually just thought of one other thing when we were talking back on the safety thing. We talked about the importance of plugging into a GFI outlet. I've seen people run an extension cord through a window or through a door and plug into the close outlet that's there. Now, those outlets are usually not GFI protected, so you want to make sure that you're not plugging into a non-GFI protected outlet. Sorry, I didn't mean to kind of have a brain seizure there.
Good advice.
Go back to it. Let's see. Yeah, I've seen Christmas lights that synchronize up to music, and like you roll through the neighborhood and they have a sign out that says tune it to 94.2 or whatever. I don't know that's they're odd numbers, right? 94.1 or 94.3.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think
I've not done this, so obviously, but those are always fun. When do you guys start decorating for Christmas? I told you my wife puts it off as long as she can, but when do you guys, have you already started? Because when we're recording this, it's like not quite Thanksgiving, but Halloween is over. So when do you guys start as a rule of thumb?
We start after Thanksgiving.
After Thanksgiving.
We let it go. Halloween, then Thanksgiving, then Christmas.
Okay, Shane?
That's what we do. We cut our trees usually that Friday or Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Where do you go to cut your trees?
Here in Utah, we can buy tree tags. They're pretty cool.
Really?
You can buy them for $10. You can cut whatever size tree you want. So if you
But where do you go? Like, do you just go out in the mountains, or is it from a tree farm?
No, certain spots you can go up in the mountains. So
Really?
we go up there and take snowmobiles or chain the trucks up, and it's kind of fun.
That does sound interesting.
So if you want a tree tag this year, Mike, give me a call. I'll get you one.
We don't do live trees at my house. We do.
You should try it.
When I end up with a house with 18-foot ceilings like you have, Shane, I'll think about it. I'd have to go out with you guys because I ain't got snowmobiles or chains for my tires. So anyway, but that sounds cool. Do you get a specific kind of tree? Like, is there a Christmas tree? Like, is it a fir or I know it's a pine tree, but like what kind of, is it Christmas pine?
There's blue spruce. There's a couple others up here.
Do you get all three of your tree, or you only get two live ones? Do you get them the same kind of tree, or do you mix it up and be like, oh, we're gonna have a Charlie Brown little pine tree over here and a?
Well, if anybody out there has ever tried to cut Christmas trees, trying to find that perfect Christmas tree is about impossible.
Okay.
So if you find a Christmas tree, you don't care what kind it is, you cut that thing down.
Okay. But okay. Well, I guess I meant
no, we don't cut cedar trees and stuff like that. But
no. Sorry. What I was getting at is, do you make sure they're the same kind of tree so that are they in the same room? Your two that are upstairs?
Two different rooms. So,
oh, okay. Yeah. So I guess you're not going to have somebody like looking at them and be like, no. Those trees don't match.
No.
Okay. Well, that's cool. How long does it usually take you to find your perfect Christmas tree?
It depends on the year. We usually take a good part of a day to find a couple. We cut one the other year that was way too big and way too wide.
Really?
It was probably, I don't know, from side to side, probably 12 feet.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it took up.
That's taller than my ceilings in my house.
It was nuts. It took
How tall was it?
Before we cut it down or when we cut it down?
Yeah, before you cut it down. How high are your ceilings, Shane? Let's just get this out of the way.
They're like 17 feet.
Okay.
So not real high.
Do you get the tree and like go all the way up?
Well, they go to the top. Yeah, we have to cut off on the Christmas tree before bringing it in the house. We'll cut trees that are 20, 25 feet tall.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, do you like to take advantage of every bit of height you have in that room?
Oh, they touch the ceiling.
They touch the ceiling.
Yeah.
So you don't put a star on the top?
No star.
Do you?
It's an angel.
Oh, an angel.
Yeah.
You got room for the angel, even though the tree touches the ceiling?
Well, the angel touches the top, but the angel's only 6 inches tall.
I was going to say, you got a 6-foot angel standing on a tree. Your kids take turns. I'm the angel this year.
But no, they go to the top.
All right. But day after Thanksgiving, no Black Friday sales for the All Red family. Y'all are in the woods getting your trees.
It's coronavirus. We can't.
But last year.
Depends.
It depends on what's on for sale.
Yeah. As our children get older, it's not as much fun buying toys.
Well, you got grandkids though coming up, right?
Now we do. But no, we'll do a lot of the Black Friday stuff. Sometimes it's Saturday when we go out.
Okay.
But whatever day works.
Whatever day. I just see how long do your real trees? It. I'm not going to. How long do the real? I'm living out having a real tree through you. So you're saying, okay, go get really cold. Go buy some expensive equipment to like go out in the woods. Yep. Get a tree that's like you can't find the right tree. You just got finished telling me, anybody who's ever tried to find a good Christmas tree.
It takes a while,
right? Okay, so go spend half a day being cold, being numb, bring the tree back to the house, cut off part of the tree that you spent the time getting, and then put it in the house.
But you put it in the house, but then there's more work because trees aren't perfect. So then you take tree branches that you cut off from outside, and then you drill holes in your Christmas tree, and you put a branch in.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm definitely. I would have never. Now I'm definitely not going to do it. Is that what you have to do when you see the real Christmas trees on the side of the road? Like those seem to be a little more perfect.
Well, most of those are from Oregon. Christmas trees, if they have a lot of room around them, will grow outright all the way around. But most trees have shade that's covering them. Also, if you go up to like Oregon or those places, they'll actually cut their Christmas trees. They'll go shave them to the right angles.
Oh, I've seen that. They'll have a thing that like goes and shaves it. So
it makes them look like a perfect tree. So yeah, the ones you see at the Christmas lots. But talking about Christmas trees, today is we're into November a few days. But I'm already seeing. I stopped at a gas station and there was a load of Christmas trees already. So the nice thing about a fresh tree is even after Christmas, after New Year's, they're still fresh.
Well, we talked about safety with the lights outside. The same things apply inside. We talked about examining the cords and making sure you're not overloading circuits. I mean, it's not a super, in-depth topic that we're going over, but just be aware because this is that time of year when people are doing it. Anything else on Christmas trees before we wrap this episode?
Get a pretty one out there.
Mine's pretty every year, and it looks exactly the same. Yeah.
No, Christmas lights do bring a lot of joy, though. It really is fun to drive around and see neighborhoods, and that time of year is pretty magical.
I do like to drive around and appreciate what everyone else has done. But not me.
So thank you to everybody else.
I'm not bringing joy to anyone's life unless they like to see people driving by enjoying it. We'll be back next Tuesday with a new episode of In the House. If you would like to know more about Any Hour Services, visit anyhourservices.com. Thanks, guys, for being here. I've been your host, Mike Wilson, and you've been listening to In the House.